Hello, Troop 202. Welcome to dry docking. This is our explanation of parts of a boat. So, this is the boat, or the canoe. You come on down here, we'll take a look and we'll start going over some of these parts that you're going to need to know for the test. So, you'll notice this is the front part of the canoe, and I'll show you how that can be done, or how I can tell that here in just a second. But this is the bow, okay? It's also forward. All right, so you can kind of remember that. On the front, as well as on the back, we have a deck. And the deck is basically just this little flat piece here. It actually has a deck, just like a regular boat. Moving on back, one of the other parts you're going to need to know is the bow seat. And you can tell that it's the bow seat because it's in the bow. And the way you can tell that it's in the bow is that it has an area here where you can put your feet when you're facing forward. I'll demonstrate. So then you can paddle facing forward. Moving on back, we've got a cross brace here, but it's different than the thwart. This is actually called the yoke, and you can tell because it's got this little cutout here, so that when you're carrying it on your shoulders, it's a little bit easier on your shoulders and neck. So it's a yoke, just like on an ox has a yoke when they're pulling. This top part here, which goes from the front all the way to the back, this edge here is called the gunnel, or gunwale. All right? It's spelled kind of weird. Don't ask me where that word comes from. I don't know. This other cross piece here, which actually adds support to keep the canoe shape, is called a thwart. As we're moving back, we've got the stern seat, and you can tell it's a stern seat because it doesn't really have a lot of room up in the front for your feet. So you've got to be facing towards the bow of the front, forward. Okay. In the back here is the stern or aft. Okay. So if someone says, look towards the aft of the canoe, it's really, they're talking about the back end of it. And you it's different because if you're going backwards, then the front could be the backwards. So they call it the aft just because it doesn't matter which direction it's going. It also has a deck, and that just kind of helps keep the strength of the end of the canoe. Hanging on the back of this canoe is called the painter, and basically it's just a rope so that you can tie it up to shore. If you're in the water, you can grab a hold of it and pull yourself back to the canoe. Mine actually it may look short, okay, but I've got it tied up in such a way that if you just undo this top thing, it'll stretch out and be nice and long, okay. Being short like this just kind of makes it a little bit easier to kind of keep it from getting tangled, that sort of thing. There's a certain way to tie it. That's by no means a necessity to tie it that way. It's just how I do my painter. If you look from the back of the canoe, you'll see we have things labeled. Over here is the port side, and over here is the starboard side. And that's if the canoe's going forward. One way to remember port has 4 letters in it, just like left. L-E-F-T has the same letters as port, P-O-R-T. Starboard does not. So starboard is just not port. It's the best you can do. Over here, we've got our paddle. And I've got it labeled. If you notice up at the top, here is the grip. You can imagine what you're going to do there. Is grip it, okay? And you want to kind of grip it over the top like this. You've got the shaft, which goes all the way down to the throat, which is just this part right here. So when you're using a paddle, you'll grab it by the grip and you'll grab it by the throat to give a nice, easy stroke that's nice and straight up, okay? You don't want to be going like this and trying to paddle. You can't get very much strength and you'll be fighting it the whole time. Down at the end, we've got the blade, which is the part that does the work, and then you've got the tip. And one thing you got to remember about the tip is they're usually not as strong as you think they are. So don't bang it against rocks. Don't drag it against the bottom of the river, okay? Because especially on the wooden ones, they'll split out or at least get a lot of damage. So there's your parts of a canoe. There's also going to be a test, so I hope you were listening. We'll see you later.